We're on. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special council meeting, October the 19th, 2021. Welcome my deputy mayor and fellow councillors. Councillor Ramsey was in today and she has another commitment. She's unable to be with us tonight. And we have our CAO, Rob Philpott. And anybody around the corner there? No. And we have Linda from Tech Services, Linda Stevenson. And members of the public, welcome everybody, and welcome to the viewers on YouTube, as well as I understand the media members are watching on YouTube. So we have, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Adams and seconded by Councillor McFeely. All in favor? Contrary nay? Carried. Okay, the first item is the public meeting number 1, which is 705 Water Street East. And I'll turn it over to the chair of the planning board, Councillor Brian McFeely.
Thank you, Your Worship, and with your permission, I'll remain seated here so I'm closer to the mic.
That's
and
fine.
People on YouTube can hear me better. So we have a restricted use application for 705 Water Street East. In the background, an application was received from Julie Hall for PID number 72397. This application will require City Council approval to allow an additional dwelling unit in the agricultural A zone. The dwelling unit is proposed to be located on the second floor of the agricultural building, the stable, and the accompanying drawing map. There we go. Shows the location of the dwelling in proportion to the main house, and we're talking about the second floor of that agricultural building. The application was advertised in the October 5th edition of The Guardian, and letters were mailed to property owners within 60 meters or 200 feet of the subject property. So now is the time in the process where we would invite the proponents to make comment. I know Julie Hall and Mike Martin are here and prepared to answer any questions. I understand they don't have a formal presentation per se, but certainly are prepared to answer any questions that council or a member of the public may have. So, any questions?
Since this is in an agricultural zone right now, would it eventually have to get approval from the Department of Health in any way, shape, or form if the residence is going to be in a farm building? Is that what I'm hearing?
Linda, I'd ask you to give comment to that.
We'll look into the information once we collect our thoughts here this evening. So we'll look into that and we'll get that back to you for the planning board.
Yeah. So tonight is really about gathering information, and then we would deal with the questions and concerns at planning board. So, Councillor Snow.
I'm just wondering if either one of the opponents would just give a brief overview of the plan, sort of the vision for what you're doing to the property, and then from there what the plan is, just so we have some sort of understanding.
And we would ask you to state your name and address for the record, please.
And I think the mic is on. Yes.
Good evening. Mike Martin's my name, 705 Water Street East. So we're here tonight. We've made official application to have the second story of an agricultural building turned into officially as a residence or a rental property, or perhaps somewhere that the children could move in or we could move in, something down the road. We initially built the building. It's 32 by 48, so it's 1,500 square feet. The lower building has stables in it. Right now, currently, there's 2 horses down there. The upper part of the building was finished all up to the National Building Code. It full permits for everything that was done, electrical. We had city inspector was out. We had all the proper fire code and everything was done. And yeah, we're here to answer any questions tonight. Welcome any questions from council or from your worship. Anything at all.
Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I don't really have a question. I guess want to just thank you for going through the process. I know, you know, your building is kind of off the beaten path, so to speak, and
It is, yeah.
you know,
It
some
hides in
folks,
behind the house,
yeah, some folks might not even bother, you know, they might
Yeah.
just,
No, everything, all the permits, all the building construction, everything has been done above board with the proper permits to make sure we didn't run into any trouble down the road, so no expense has been spared on the construction.
So, Mr. Martin, if there was a residence above there, where would the access be?
So, my understanding is, it's only proposed to be built as a one-bedroom, no extra traffic flow, no large families, it would just be a one-room, albeit a very large one-bedroom dwelling, because it is 1,500 square feet. They would simply be able to, we plan to build onto the access that we use for our own house. So they would just be able to park there and just walk in the back. Another comment was made too about health concerns from having the stables downstairs and upstairs. It has two of its own entrances completely separated by firewall from the stables to upstairs. So it has a main entrance and a safety exit upstairs as well. So it's completely separated from the stables. You can access it through the stables, but it has its own exterior access as well, as code requires.
Councillor McDougall?
Thank you, Councillor McFeely. A couple of the questions were just answered. The access to the apartment through is it through your driveway now, the present driveway, or is it?
Correct, it would be, that's the only proposal we would ever make. We're not looking to make
Add-in
a
or
separate
anything, yeah.
entrance to that
Right.
at all. It would just be using our own access,
Yeah, and then I just had the question about the horses versus people in the same building, so I think you answered that. Thank you.
Councillor Adams?
Thank you. And I just wanted to, we had chatted earlier, and I had indicated there was no need for an official presentation, but I had mentioned everybody you'd be here, the family,
Yes, yeah.
for questions if they had any. And yeah, just the same as Councillor Duran said, thank you, because lots of times when it's not visual to everybody, things
Yeah.
get done and nobody's any the wiser. So we appreciate this. It makes it a lot easier in the long run on everybody. And
Sorry, I will also be submitting proper floor plans for it. I apologize for not having it
That's
tonight, but I was told by Linda that I had to submit those. So I will be submitting photographs of the current structure and then the proposed
Perfect.
Footprint there.
Excellent. No, we appreciate you working with them to get that done. And we also wanted to welcome the kids, Thomas and Clara, for coming out on a school night. So
Okay, any,
Just, Mr. Chairman, I just,
Your Worship?
is there, Linda would probably be able to answer, is there a precedent set down from the past where something like this did happen and was allowed or permitted, or is this the first time I've heard a request like this?
I believe this is the first of this type of request yet for a dwelling unit above an agricultural building in the agricultural zone.
In hindsight, I think the way we built the building, it might have been easier if we built a house and asked permission to put a horse in it. It's kind of, you'd have to see the way it was built. It's not just a stable, it's a pretty substantial structure. Yeah.
So if this
And-
council was to sorry,
no, I was going to say, like with it being in the city, there's such limited agricultural places anyways. It definitely is.
And with such a
random
housing crisis
occurrence.
right now, it's a shame to let that space go unused.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
I guess I'm just wondering through you, Mr. Chairman, if this council was to approve this, and I get no idea how it will go, but could afterwards the province or the Department of Health, somebody step in and say, it's not possible? I guess I'm just wondering where, yeah, no.
Yeah, we're actually doing the restricted use. If there's provincial legislation that he has to meet, he would have to obtain that.
But is there provincial legislation possible that he couldn't meet? I guess I'm wondering, to go through the zoning process, and if he can't get it approved, say from the province, I don't know.
We don't even know if there's a provincial requirement or a regulation for this type of thing. I'm not sure if Mike can speak to that or not, if he's checked into that, but
Who's Mike?
Mike Martin.
yeah,
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's Mike Tasotska.
the guy behind the mic. No, I haven't heard of from any investigations I've done, I'm not aware of any restrictions. There are other, throughout the province, just not in Summerside, but there are many other locations on the island that people have their primary residence above stables or businesses above stables. It's not a one-off, it's just the first time here.
In Summerside, yeah.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
I know we're talking agriculture in this particular application with a dwelling above. I remember as recently as a few weeks ago, there was another application from the same ward area where there was an apartment, where there was a dwelling above the building. I don't know if it was institutional, but it was commercial, and I know that there was some discussions about that. And I'm just wondering where we had to run into it in that application. Although this is agriculture, we still did have those questions that come forth, so I'm just wondering if tech service did any work on that around Iraq or any problems that could be run into.
That's the one next door
Yes.
over a service station or a garage or,
Yeah. So with the restricted use, this is dealing with the land use only. The other thing we consider when we're considering any property for any type of use is we always have to consider the building use. So it's a different, it will be applied at the next, subject to him, if council should approve this, they would still be subject to obtaining a building permit for changing the use of that building. So that's when, if necessary, a code review would have to be done or what have you.
I just thought it was important to bring that up because it was just a few weeks ago.
Mr. Chairman, could I have one more question?
Certainly, Your Worship.
In regards to the zoning here, is this, the main house on the map there, that is in what zone?
Agricultural.
Agriculture.
So you're asking to what area to be changed?
It's not a rezoning request.
No, okay, so
So
just the
the
building?
apartment in this building.
Just in the building?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Corey, Councillor Snow?
Just for clarification or comment, whatever, so if this is approved for restricted use, he's gonna have to meet all other requirements, so this is just one step in the process, then following that step, he's gonna have to go through other steps to make sure that whatever is in there meets all the codes, requirements that,
Exactly.
correct? Okay.
Okay, not seeing any other lights. Thank you very much, Mr. Martin, and for the information, and we'll go through the process here in a minute, but appreciate your comments and your answers to our questions, and now's the time where we would open the floor to the public if there's any public comment. Anybody from the public this is the opportunity for public input. Not seeing.
I did just want to make one final
Sure,
comment if I could
sure.
before. The comment was made about the recent, the other apartment a few weeks ago. I think the differentiator between that and us is that they were already living in it. I think it was already being used before the permits were, that we've brought our structure to the point where we need approval from you, and we stopped at that point, knowing that, plumbing hasn't been done or any other structural changes haven't been done until we get the approval first, and then, as the councillor said, we would move forward with the other inspectors would come in and give us the right permits to finish that. So
Yeah.
we stopped at the appropriate spot.
Brian, can I answer that?
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, and Mr. Martin, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I believe, though, it's very important for us when those matters come before us, where that was a couple of weeks ago. People do watch, people pay attention, so we have to be very fair down the middle.
I watched, so yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much, and I don't see anybody from the public indicating they wish to speak. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now is the explanation of the process. So in order to process a restricted use, the following steps are required. Number one, the restricted use is read at a public meeting, and that happened tonight. Number two, planning board reviews the application and prepares a recommendation to council. So step two will take place at a planning board meeting, and we've set that for 12 noon on October 27th, is when planning board will meet to review that. Step 3, the restricted use is read to be adopted by council. The resolution will be either carried or defeated by a vote of council. And step 3 will take place at council's second meeting, first meeting being tonight, and the full council will meet again, and we're going to do that on November 2nd at 5:30.
So that November 2nd meeting, it's not, is for the vote or for?
That will be for the
to hear
vote.
from staff?
That will be for the vote. No, we will hear from staff on October 27th, the planning board.
27th, okay.
Yeah, at 12 noon.
But that's open to the public too?
That's all these are open to the public, and then we will have a special meeting in advance of our committee night there to, as part of our committee night to get the vote on these and a couple of others. So.
You could just, Mr. Chairman, in this one, did letters have to be sent out to the neighbors? Melinda?
Letters were mailed to property owners within 60 meters or 200 feet of the property.
And you didn't hear back from anybody?
No.
Thank you.
We did have one call from a neighbor, just asking for clarification on the application.
Okay, please note that in accordance with section 5.20 of the city zoning bylaw, any person who is dissatisfied by a decision of council in respect to the administration of this bylaw may appeal council's decision within 21 days to the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, IRAC. And that, your worship, concludes special meeting number 1.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Martin, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but that's your portion. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue on. Public meeting number 2, 92 Summer Street. Councillor McFeely, the floor is yours again, sir.
Thank you, your worship, and it's a discretionary use application for 92 Summer Street. In the background, an application was received from Natalie and Jim Clark for 92 Summer Street, PID number 310516. This application requires council approval to allow an apartment building up to 4 units as a discretionary use in the medium-density residential R3 zone. The applicant is proposing to convert the existing 2-story home into 4 apartment units. And the map there shows the subject property. The application was advertised in the October 5th edition of The Guardian, and letters were mailed to property owners within 60 meters or 200 feet of the subject property. So medium-density residential R3 zone, 17.1, the purpose of this zone is to provide for medium-density housing in the form of single-family, semi-detached, duplex dwelling, and other compatible uses. Permitted uses subject to bylaw requirements. In the R3 zone, permitted uses include single-family dwellings, duplex dwellings, assisted living, semi-detached dwellings, accessory buildings, manufactured homes, mobile homes lawfully existing prior to 1999. And the discretionary uses subject to council's approval in the R3 zone include the child care facility medium, a boarding house, social service agency, a group home, nursing care facility, tourism establishment inn, a townhouse, 8 units per building, maximum in the rooming house, row house, 8 units per building maximum, a apartment building, 4 units maximum. And the asterisk there, the tourism establishment inn, also requires a conditional use permit. Conditional uses subject to permit in the R3 zone include the home-based business, secondary suite, tourism establishment, the B&B, and vacation rental properties. So an apartment building means a building containing more than 2 dwelling units. And this is the point in time where we would open the floor to any comments that the proponent may have. Natalie, Ms. Clark, I don't know if you're prepared to speak or if somebody's speaking on your behalf, or?
I guess I'm speaking on
You're it. You're it.
The reason that we're hoping to do this is I love my neighborhood. I love my
Natalie, if I
neighbors.
could just get you
Oh, sorry.
for the record
Very
to
good,
state your
yes.
name and
Oh,
address
okay.
for the public record, and then we'll move
My
on.
name is Natalie
Yeah.
Clark, excuse me, and I live at 92 Summer Street in Summerside. And we're requesting permission to potentially, possibly turn our large home into a 4-unit rental. I would be renting one of those units. I love my neighborhood, love my neighbors, have no intentions of leaving. And we are getting a little bit older, so just the fact I have 50 stairs to climb every day, numerous times a day, it's just getting too large for us. And I can see in the near future that just to maintain the home will be something that will be getting more difficult for my husband and I. So we're hoping to downsize and live in one of those units and rent the other 3 or 2 out. And that's basically my request. It would be to stay in the neighborhood, stay in my own home, rent out the units, which would ease the cost of the maintenance of the home. But, I mean, I could sell it and try to find a place in the neighborhood, which, you know yourself, it's pretty difficult to find a home in that particular place, that part of the town. So the best thing at this time, it's just a plan, is just to hopefully get that permission to do that. And I would just stay in one of those units. I could choose my renters, my tenants, my neighbors, and
Yeah, thanks, Natalie. Thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Durrell?
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Natalie. I just had one question. It actually came to me from a resident. First of all, she had nothing but the best things to say about Jim and Natalie. She was wondering, and it's a valid point, I'm sure it'll come up sometime in the process, that home is a registered heritage home, I believe?
I believe you're correct.
So
Yeah.
her concern, or
Yeah.
more of a question really, it wasn't so much a concern because there is a process and we all realize that, was just if that will be touched upon, whether it's tonight during this particular application or maybe somewhere down the line, just to, as to, what our bylaws state as far as altering a registered heritage home and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the law says, but that would be something that, of course, we would look into. Maybe Linda could speak to that, I'm not sure. But whatever the regulations are, we would have to certainly abide by that. But I'm sure there must be some, being a heritage home, there are probably many
Yeah.
things that we might have to consider.
And obviously, just in hearing from you tonight, you have no interest in changing, the overall,
No, my house
yeah.
is, yeah,
So there is some requirements there, Linda, I believe.
I would think so, yeah.
We will confirm, I don't believe it's a designated home. I think it's registered on the historic places.
Right.
So we'll provide that information in the report back for planning board.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be the last thing I would want to do is to, make this ultra-modern, I mean, it just would ruin the home. Yeah. It's just such a special spot. I really don't ever want to leave it.
Councillor McDougall?
Oh, thank you, Natalie. I know the house. I was just wondering about if you're putting some apartments in there, parking. What about the parking? Do you have enough room for parking there?
The gentleman that I've been speaking with that would be doing the modifications
Right.
has taken that into consideration, and he has come up with a solution for that.
Okay.
I would address that with Linda, but yeah, there's definitely, at this point, there is room. We've kind of measured it out, but not, I'm sure there's a much more
Yeah.
legal or perfect way to do it that
Right.
would be done.
Yeah.
But he did take that into consideration, and there would be enough, we have quite a large space there
Okay.
on the north side of the house, and quite a large driveway. Whether that meant taking down the existing old barn garagey type thing and putting something something much more appropriate, or just leaving that as space. But
Yeah.
yeah, that is something that we have considered. But there, until we get, I don't know how it,
Yeah.
what
Okay.
steps are, but yeah.
That's great.
Something that we have considered, and, yeah.
Okay.
I actually spoke with a real estate agent too, and they suggested that was a very important part of the process to consider, to have space for,
Parking,
or
yeah.
even covered space.
Yeah.
for-
Okay, that's great. All the best. Thank you.
So,
Deputy Mayor.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry,
No, it's okay.
didn't see your light.
Do you want to go?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Natalie, I'm to see your application. I didn't even realize that it was on the agenda tonight, to be very honest. But anyway, glad to see that the application has come forth. With the heritage and the historic part, I know that, and I just want to clarify that you and I have had no conversations. This was the first I've known about the application tonight. But I know that there is a property in that same neighborhood area, formerly John and Joan Waite's home, which I believe is a historic home, and that was sold, turned into apartments. I'm just wondering, with the property that you and Jim have now, was that at one time a bed and breakfast? And was it known as, was it the Topple House?
Koppel,
Koppel House.
C-O-P-P-L-E,
Okay.
Mr. and Mrs. Koppel.
So are there any landmark, like a write-up or anything about the house, if it was to be changed in any way, that people would know about the history, as Linda, as you've mentioned? Just so that in the archives, the history of the home would be noted.
If the house has been if it's in the registered, sorry, if it's in the registered, if it's registered with the historic places, there will be a profile on
Oh, good, okay, all right, so,
I've read about it, and I've been online to read about
Sure.
it. There's a lovely
Yeah.
yeah.
just nice for people to know that it is a historic,
Yeah, it's-
background history.
yeah,
But
but-
anyway, just,
Yeah, I've
Good
read it.
luck.
It's quite interesting, the
Okay, good,
history of it,
thanks.
yes, yeah.
Your worship?
Yeah, I guess if this is approved by council, the changes would be just inside the house. The outside would be, stay as is. That might have been mentioned earlier. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that question too, so thank you. Councillor Snow?
That was my question as well, but as I'm sitting here listening, Natalie, and I'm thinking of, other applications that come forward, some in that area, like Councillor McCollum just mentioned. I can't think of a better way to have this done, where you're sitting there and or standing there talking about your desire to remain in the area and wanting to keep the house the way it is, and we've allowed other applications to go. So when I'm just going through the process here and hearing you speak, I think of, it's probably an opportunity to maintain some of the historical houses in that area, because the
It's so
upkeep and
special.
cost is definitely expensive. So I just thank you for bringing your application forward. I look forward to hearing more information from Linda on
Great.
the processes, but thanks. I can definitely see your desire and love of the house, so thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, Natalie, and now is the time where we would open the floor to members of the public that may wish to speak, and I see Mr. Dalton coming to the mic. So again, we would ask you to state your name and address for the record.
George Dalton, 288 Notre Dame Street. I want to say we have a wonderful neighborhood there, and it's important that homes like that be preserved, especially in the vicinity of the core of our cenotaph and things like that. I want to mention that it was mentioned about the John Waite. That one, I don't think anybody attended the meeting. It got done. But I think they did a good job of keeping the integrity on the street line. And I want to say that the Koppel House, the Clark House, and the more important, one of the first owners, is the Downing House, Dr. Downing. Peter Koppel was from Calgary, and his wife was from the island. They came here. Peter Koppel was one of the consultants that did the police review for the city. I want to mention Murray Pinchuk, a good friend and expert in heritage preservation, who engaged the public on every opportunity to keep them abreast of what was happening in our heritage district. He strongly believed in recycling, and recycling is important. I am glad to hear that the proposed building will stay the same outside, because that's important. In the past, when Murray was really active in this community, he did amazing work. And he saved so much of our heritage integrity by allowing people to go onto the properties of the demolition and salvage stuff that they could use in their own restoration of other homes here in town. That seemed to be off the shelf right now. It's got away on us. For my old home, the Virtue Culture Center, the Dalton home for 42 years, I've got bits and pieces of it home because I got in the dumpster. And so did others in town and took pieces of lumber. And I have a computer desk on my old house. This recycling is important. I'll mention Paul McWilliams has a bookcase. He worked there. So these things are precious, and we got to keep in mind we're in a fast-moving world. But we have to be very respectful of heritage in every opportunity. I think this is a great opportunity that Natalie has put forward. The only thing I would say, I don't think it would be right to have any Ottawa Senator banners hanging out in the front. Now, we mentioned the heritage. Councillor Snow mentioned there's the designated. That's just designation. The other ones, not many of them, but they're the ones that you can't change the design unless you go through a whole process. That's the difference. And we were quite excited. We were around here. I think we had 60 or maybe more designated properties in the city. And that's, as a historical society, we value those. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention all of the people on Spring Street who've been the backbone of development here. The money they spend, economic development, heritage and history is about that. They spent millions of dollars. I've known people that come in and bought a house that was redone 3 times. The same house, but they didn't like the style. So that is important. And I would like to say that as part of this process, because we know there's going to be more of these houses, they're going to be repurposed. It's important because when we went through the process in Canada at the time, they were designating heritage properties. And guess what? More economic development. The city got $500 for everyone that was designated. And we went to the city and we said, wouldn't it be nice if we have a plaque on each house that got designated? Take $100 and mention it. I would like to see that in future in this process, that the history be done. Wyatt Properties Heritage, they got all those files. In fact, what I do often, when someone buys a house in town, I get a copy of that plan of their property and use it as a welcoming tool. Here's your house, here's the history. So I guess the challenge would be to carry this forward. Have the profile here when you're discussing it. Get the wide center, send over the process, who lived there, have a bit of an idea what was there. So I want to thank Natalie and Jim for doing this project, because every bit helps to save heritage. And if it doesn't, and then let's go backwards. Let's go to the Summerside Inn, the Thane Campbell House, and a few others in the early 60s they were chopped up and made into landlords' apartments. So then those good folks came, and they got recycled again. Ken Meisner did work on it. So thanks for the time to speak, and Natalie, good thing.
Thank you, George. And as we move on to the process here, I want to thank both Natalie and George for their presentations and discussions and chats. And I think the common theme there is, preserving what we have and trying to move forward in a positive way. So we thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman, could I just make a follow-up quick comment?
You certainly may, Your Worship. You're the
and-
boss.
No, but I just wanted to mention, and I think I mentioned it here last night, a few weeks ago, we got a call from Alan Scales and former Premier Campbell, when the Dalton home and the Lafergie Centre and the McNaught home, when the Wyatt estate was being wound down or wound up, she had an agreement or wanted those properties turned over to the city. So Alan Scales called and wanted to do a tour, and Mr. Campbell was unable to attend that day, but there was another lady with Mr. Scales, and he did a tour of the properties, and he did say he was very, very pleased on how well they were kept. The Lafergie Cultural Centre and the Wanda Wyatt's original home, as well as the Watson McNaught home. So it was a compliment from those people how well the properties are kept, and they just commended the city and the staff at those heritage properties for the great work they do and maintaining them. So I just wanted to have that in the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the explanation of the process. In order to process a restricted use, the following steps are required. 1, the restricted use is read at a public meeting, and that's taking place tonight. This will be repetitive for folks. It's the same thing we read last time. 2, the planning board reviews the application and prepares a recommendation to council. Step 2 takes place at the planning board meeting, which will be held at the same meeting at 12 noon on October 27th. And that's a public meeting. Number 3, the restricted use is read to be adopted by council. The resolution will either be carried or defeated by a vote of council, and that will happen on November 2nd at 5:30 p.m. So, and that's when the vote would happen on it. So those 2 dates again are planning board will meet, and that's basically to review the information and questions that we heard tonight, and staff will provide a report to planning board on the various questions that were raised. And it will be at 12 noon on October 27th, and the vote of council will happen on November 2nd at 5:30. Please note that in accordance with section 5.20, the city zoning bylaw, any person who is dissatisfied by a decision of council in respect to the administration of this bylaw may appeal council's decision within 21 days to the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, IRAC. And that, Your Worship, concludes our public meeting number 2.
Thank you, Council and Mr. Chairman. So we'll call public meeting number 3 to order, 90/94 Cedar Street, discretionary use. So the floor is yours again, Councillor McFeely. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Worship. And we're dealing with a discretionary use application for 90-94 Cedar Street. The background and application was received from the Boys and Girls Club of Summerside, Inc. for 90 and 94 Cedar Street, PID number 303-8792 and 303-800. This application will require City Council approval to allow a group home.
Thanks, George.
As a discretionary use in the medium-density residential R3 zone, and the map there shows the 2 subject properties that we're discussing. The application was advertised in the October 5th edition of The Guardian, and letters were mailed to property owners within 60 meters or 200 feet of the subject properties. Medium-density residential R3 zone. The purpose of this zone is to provide for medium-density housing in the form of single-family, semi-detached duplex dwellings and other compatible uses. Permitted uses subject to bylaw requirements. The permitted uses in R3 zone include single-family dwelling, duplex dwelling, assisted living, Semi-detached dwellings, accessory buildings, and manufactured homes, mobile homes lawfully existing prior to 1999. Discretionary uses subject to council approval. Discretionary uses include child care facility medium, boarding house, social service agency, group home, nursing care facility, a tourism establishment, inn, townhouse 8 units per building maximum, a row house 8 units per building maximum, apartments 4 units maximum, a rooming house, and the tourism establishment inn also requires conditional use permit. Conditional uses subject to a permit in the R3 zone include a home-based business, secondary suite, tourism establishment, B&B, and vacation rental properties. Group home means a building for accommodating individuals who are not a family but live under supervision in a single housekeeping unit because of their special physical, social, or mental needs, and may also include a caretaker family. So now is the time that we would open up the floor here for questions and comments, and we would first invite the applicant. I'm not sure who's, Susan? Laurie? Okay, I have Adam or Sue here, but Laurie, welcome. I'll get you to state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Laurie Hiscock, and you want my residential address?
Yes, please.
Oh, 250 Central Street, Summerside.
Thank you.
So what I'm going to do is give a presentation, if it's okay.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor Stewart and council members. My name is Laurie Hiscock, and I want to begin by thanking you by providing us with the opportunity to speak with you regarding the establishment of Lifehouse Transitional Housing and Emergency Shelter. So I'll begin with a bit of the history. On February 6, 2019, residents of Harbor Terrace condominiums observed a young woman in distress on the boardwalk in front of their building. They offered their assistance, brought her in from the brutal cold, warmed her and provided her with food, dry clothing, and began searching out options for accommodations for her. In conversation with local police, it was identified that she could be housed at a women's shelter in Charlottetown. 2 of the condo residents offered to drive her to Charlottetown Women's Shelter, Blooming House. While there has been no further contact with this young woman, she has not been forgotten, nor have the circumstances of her situation been forgotten. The encounter with such a vulnerable individual has remained the incentive and momentum for 2 local women to pursue efforts towards establishing a much-needed transitional housing and emergency shelter for women and children. This would be from Summerside and the surrounding Prince County. They formulated a small advisory committee and established Lifehouse. As the name chosen for the future facility, the symbolism of a lighthouse, a symbol of a human presence and safety, especially in the face of adversity, a source of guidance for all who need it, a representation of protection and never-ceasing watchfulness, appeared directly aligned with her overall vision of possible services to be available for our vulnerable population of women and children. At this time, we do want to thank you for being one of the first organizations to support Lifehouse. Because of the council's initial donation of $5,000 and Mayor Stewart's letter of support sent to the province, this is what has been achieved. The Lifehouse Advisory Committee approached the Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club, Adam Binkley, to determine the feasibility of forming a partnership with the club to enable the establishment of the program facility under an established nonprofit charitable organization. The program is being developed under the auspice of the Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors and led underneath the leadership of the Executive Director, Adam Binkley, with ongoing support from the Lifehouse Advisory Committee. The Boys and Girls Club has purchased 2 houses in support of the program. One house will be equipped to provide transitional housing for up to 3 women and their children, and the second house will provide emergency shelter for 2 to 3 single women. The facilities will run 24/7 for 12 months of the year with a full complement of trained staff to support the Lifehouse guests. Both houses will be equipped with security monitoring systems, and the ongoing maintenance will be maintained by staff of the Boys and Girls Club. Both houses are in close proximity to the Boys and Girls Club, allowing guests to benefit from the many services and supports that the club provides. Transitional housing and supports will be available for up to 1 year, with consideration given for additional time if deemed necessary. Low barrier emergency shelter services will accommodate individuals for a maximum 2-week period and serve as a point of access to housing and other services. The foundation of Lifehouse Services will embrace a case management model aimed at all identification of wraparound services and supports and/or securing outreach services applicable to the identified needs of each individual. The foundation of Lifehouse Services, the services provided to guests of Lifehouse will enable collaboration, assessment, planning, monitoring, evaluation, facilitation, and advocacy. It will facilitate the linking of individuals to services and systems and supports to enhance the quality of life for individuals of her children and/or child, strengthening resilience, promote empowerment, facilitate achievement towards independence and self-sufficiency, and prevent inappropriate and costly uses of service. Lifehouse does not intend to duplicate services already in existence through other community organizations. Outreach services may be secured from and provided by organizations with proven expertise and experience in delivering such services. In addition to the individual supports provided by Lifehouse, it is important to identify that women and children will also be able to participate in the current programs offered to children, youth, and families through the Boys and Girls Club of Summerside. This includes programs such as Summer Camp, Girls Strong Program, Strengthening Families Program, the Breakfast Program, transportation to and from school, childcare, and also have access to the music studio, computer labs, and the Youth Engagement Center. In closing, we want to share our mission, mandate, vision, and values statements with you. Our mission: Lifehouse is committed to ensuring that women and children in the Prince County region have access to safe, secure, inclusive, and supportive transitional housing and shelter while navigating through life's rough waters. Our mandate: transitional housing and emergency shelter for women and children in need from Summerside and surrounding areas. Our vision: empowering women to find their inner strength and recognize their self-worth and their inherent power by accessing assisting resources and supports in times of difficulty and transition. Our values: inclusion, respect, and empowerment. Thank you again for this opportunity, for your consideration to approve this important initiative for Summerside and surrounding area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Laurie, for that very detailed and somewhat inspiring presentation. Thank you very, very much. I don't know if folks have any questions or concern.
Just an amazing project, and thanks everyone for the great work they're doing.
Thank you.
and
Oh, we do have some lights on here, so
I
I don't
was
know who
just-
was first.
no.
We'll go with Carrie.
I was just going to say, like, thank you so much, and anything that we probably were wondering is covered in the presentation, so that's great. Thank you.
Councillor Durham.
Thank you, Councillor McFeely. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone here needs any convincing that this is a terrific, needed idea for Summerside, and I think we're all glad that it's going ahead, and I think we're all in your corner, and if there's anything you need going forward, you know where we are, and
Thank you.
good luck with everything.
Councillor Snow, then McDougall.
I guess just a couple comments. It was brought to my attention earlier that I'm actually on the website still as president of the Boys and Girls Club here in Summerside. So I think publicly I should state that I have not been president of the Boys and Girls Club for quite some time. just so there's no conflict there. In saying that, I just want to congratulate the ladies involved. I've had many discussions with them on the project. I dare say this is probably going to be the best $5,000 we've spent as a city in a long time. And that is my area, that's in Ward 4, and I think of the surroundings, obviously being in close proximity to the Boys and Girls Club and their services, but you also got Gen X, you got community mental health, you got community connections building, so there's also similar like buildings in the area providing services to people in our city. None of the residents in Ward 4 have yet reached out to me with any concerns regarding these properties. So that leads me to believe that there's no major concerns. I would encourage if anybody has any to reach out and also have a discussion with the people behind it, and if they do have any, just to make sure that any of those concerns are addressed. But I just really want to congratulate you guys on the hard work. I know how hard that you've all been working, so congratulations and keep up the good work.
Councillor McDougall, the Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Councillor McFeely. Thank you, Laurie, for that presentation. Very, very thorough, and also want to congratulate you and your team. And as Corey has said, that's probably the best $5,000 we've spent in a long time. And you know, if we could get that much value out of $5,000 every time we doled it out, the city would be in great shape. So I just want to thank you for jumping on this bandwagon and really doing something that needs to be done. So you're to be commended, you and your team. So thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Lori and the other team members, just congratulations on such a great presentation. I think if your presentation is as good as it was, how you presented it, then Lifehouse will certainly be operated very well. And I think that you're filling a very important place in the community of Summerside and Prince County. There was a hole left whenever the second stage housing was lost here and sold, and it never was replaced. So hopefully you folks will fulfill and fill that need that is there. And also I'm very pleased that the provincial government is on board to work with you, because I believe there should be some funding that should come to this county through the province that was there before. Okay, so all the best.
Councillor Campbell, and Your Worship.
I'd just like to thank you for the presentation, and I'm certainly a supporter of the Boys and Girls Club and Gen X. I think they're very important parts of the city. And I'd like to know, how did you keep Gary quiet that long? Right here.
He has a mask on. I can't see.
Keep the mask on him, man. Your Worship.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And as others, I remember when the meeting started first, when they came in to see us there at the beginning, and everybody was very cooperative, and we certainly thank the council for their support and doing the letters of the province, and it's great to get the support from the province. And I've talked to Laurie last week, or a couple of weeks ago, she was in, and I know her family. She's from God's country up west.
Yes.
And her father-in-law was Mr. Hickok's president of the Legion and a veteran for many years. And you got a great group with you here tonight. But to make things happen, I mean, as a result of this, things are happening, and I commend all of the members on your committee, and we look forward to this unfolding even more. So I thank you.
And Councillor Stone.
Sarah, there's one thing I want to say, and I want to say it, I've been wanting to say it as we've been going along the process, and I sort of forgot every time, and then I had a note down here, and then I just remembered. So I just keep envisioning, because every time you guys come in and present, you tell the story. So that's the first time I heard of it, the story of the young lady being on the boardwalk and needing help. And then I just think, I know I keep hearing that we haven't had further contact with her, but I just think of what will happen if or when she ever comes back and realizes what sort of transpired. So just congratulations, because I think that would be amazing part of the stories.
So thank you.
Okay.
I don't see any of the lights on here, so just, Laurie, thank you again very, very much, and like others, congratulations. It's just, for me, it's just inspiring to see folks that see a problem and in the community and rally around that problem and try to find solutions. You know, it is a wonderful story that is going to come to fruition here. So it's great, and really because of your efforts. So thank you very, very much. So we will move on. It is time to open the floor to the public if they have any comments. Don't know if any others have anything to say. If not, we'll just move on with the explanation of the process that you've all heard two other times tonight. So, but we will read it into the record. Explanation of the process. In order to process a restricted use, the following steps are required. 1, the restricted use is read at a public meeting. That's happening as we speak. 2, the planning board reviews the application and prepares a recommendation to council, and that will take place at the planning board meeting on October 27th, 12 noon. 3, the restricted use is read to be adopted by council. The resolution will be either carried or defeated by a vote of council. Step 3 takes place at council's second meeting, which will be at November 2nd at 5:30. Please note, and both of those meetings are public meetings. Please note that in accordance with section 5.20, the city zoning bylaw, any person who is dissatisfied by a decision of council in respect to the administration of this bylaw may appeal council's decision within 21 days to the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, IRAC. And your worship, that concludes public meeting number 3.
And I believe that is the last item on the agenda. Sorry.
Did we get the meeting dates right on that? There was talk about moving meeting dates around for this
We did.
application.
Can I say?
Yeah.
I had written down from Linda's meeting that, the planning board meeting was November the 2nd at 5 p.m. And we had asked to have a special council meeting on November the 5th.
No, we
Moved everything.
move those to, the planning board will meet the 27th at noon. And
Special council.
And the special council will be on November 2nd, and we did that in response to your desire to have it done earlier.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I just, you can't keep me quiet. I
Right.
just want to take just defend Lynn Stevenson and Rich Straw. I know they were employees, they were a great help to us putting the applications together, and Mike coming over the whole bit. So we really appreciate the staff we have. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Good, they're great. And thanks, Linda.
So is that the end?
That's it.
Is there a motion to adjourn? We're still on YouTube, so is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor McDougall and seconded by Councillor Drawn. I believe you had your hand up, both hands up, right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Carried. So we'll just take a second to get